Hello everybody, it's Dr. Weber, and today we're going to go over HFE 415 lesson planning. You will be given a link with a table. Table will provide you with more links and documents to help you create your lesson plan. When creating your lesson plan, it's really important that you use the teacher resources, that you read the key, and that you watch this entire video. So I'll definitely be able to tell if you went over this video or if you kind of made things up as you went along. So make sure that you go through this entire video. So the first thing you'll do is you'll open up and download the lesson plan template. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over this template with you now, and I'm also going to so to download it, to the left, you can do it in Microsoft Word, which would probably be best. You'll open that up. Okay, once you open that up, you'll have access to the lesson plan, and you should be able to write inside of that lesson plan. Okay, so the lesson plan, you'll put your name, you'll put the date, the day you plan on teaching. If you don't know what day you're teaching, you can leave that empty. Lesson plan title. So the title of your lesson plan, is it soccer? If it's sport, if it's strength and conditioning, you can just put strength and conditioning. Unit title, either strength and conditioning or sport. Grade level in class, you can put adapted with ED, not IVE, adapted PE. Central focus, so whatever your main focus is, whether it's strength or whether it's sports skills. Overview of the lesson, quick overview of what you plan on teaching the class. Academic language, so the language that you're going to be using, such as breathing education. You might be talking about inhale and exhale. You might be talking about maybe the definitions of words, where words come from. Materials and resources, so if you go to pecentral.org, there's resources there. You can also get resources from our class. I've given you documents and I've given you videos to watch. Safety considerations, so any safety considerations you think are important for your lesson, such as, having adequate space, treating the equipment appropriately, that type of thing. And if there's anything in there that you need to add. Sources of the lesson, so where you got the content from. Was it from Canvas? Was it from a certain site? Okay. National standards. Okay, there's two different standards. We'll be looking at national and state standards. What you'll do is you'll click on this link. This will open up the national PE standards. And once you go there, you're going to pick out one standard you think is most appropriate to your lesson plan. You'll copy and paste that into your lesson plan, like so. Let's see if I can find it. All right, so I put that in here. That's the standard we're going to meet. All right, state PE objective. So I need you to find at least one PE objective. What you'll do is, if you can't open that, you'll just try to copy and paste that into a link. See if we can open it. Nope. All right, so it looks like we're opening it here. So any clarifying objectives that you think meet your learners. So these MS stands for motor skills, MC for movement concept, HF for health related fitness, and PR for personal social responsibility. So what you'll do is you'll pick out anything on this right side. First, you'll put the essential standard, and then you'll copy and paste the clarifying objective. Okay. So applying fundamental motor skills and complex skills needed to participate successfully in at least 3 lifetime activities. Use movement and manipulative skills involving equipment. So if you're using any type of equipment or soccer balls, that would be something that you could add. So what you do is you would copy the essential standard, you'd copy the actual number of the clarifying objective, and then you would add that entire sentence in there. So I would start with going here, finding my sheet, You're going to want to obviously delete the links after you're done with that. So and then after that, I would go back to my website. Go back here, copy this in. All right. And so that's where these objectives will come from. Okay. Try to make those neat for me. If you want to add in more than one, you can, but you're only, your objective for this lesson is to add at least one for each. Okay. For student learning outcomes, so cognitive skills, what do you want them to be able to learn if you're teaching soccer? You want them to know, understand, or you want them to be able to tell you or repeat the cues or memorize the cues and say the cues of toe taps or dribbling, or maybe list the stretches they performed, or talk about the benefits of stretching. Okay, affective, do they play fair? How can we assess that? So asking the students, did they play fair today? Asking the students how they feel about physical activity or how they feel after physical activity. Asking them, describe how you cooperated today in class, or discuss how you showed leadership skills. So for my cognitive domain, it might say, students will be able to list 2 cues from soccer dribbling. Effective students will be able to describe leadership qualities. And psychomotor, whatever you're teaching, if it's sports, students will be able to perform dribbling, passing, and shooting skills. A rubric, you can say 80, 8 out of, or with a high success rate. You'll have to determine what the success rate is in your assessment at the end. You'll have to determine how they're going to be able to describe leadership skills, and then you'll have to determine the questions that you'll ask later on. Modifications, differentiation, and learning cues. So modifications, flat soccer ball, so it doesn't travel as far. That would be one modification. Students utilizing wheelchairs and basketball, so that would be another modification you could use if this was your soccer unit. Differentiation, so what accessory teaching modalities could you use? Music, okay, music will be used during the kickboxing portion. So if I was going to plan some kickboxing portion of class, maybe you're using a whiteboard, will provide information concerning the schedule. So what are some visual, tactile, audio, those types of things? How can you differentiate the way you're going to present your materials? Learning cues, especially with soccer, you might list your learning cues. So it might be head up, watch out for other people when dribbling. It could be quick feet. If you're talking about toe taps, if you're talking about shooting for accuracy, it could be step to the side of the ball or striking with the opposite foot. So those would be some cues. Other cues can be external cues. So shoot the ball at the wall. That would be external if you're externally focused. It could be lift your foot toward the sky during a hip extension. It could also be another learning cue, could be an imaginative learning cue. So for example, if you're saying for the single leg reach, pretend stretched apart by a huge. So those would be all different types of learning cues, both three different kinds. We have internal, external, and analogy learning cues that you can use when describing. I also want you to add the learning cues and modifications in your lesson plan procedures. So making sure that you add any modifications or learning cues into your sequence of activities. So for your lesson plan procedures, so describe what you're going to be doing. So in the beginning, have all students scattered in space with their own mat, prepare for breathing and stretching exercises. And that might just take, it might take 2 minutes. Okay. Diagram, I might have, so the S stands for student. S stands for student. Then here's the teacher. So that would be a diagram of the activity or the description of the activity. So that would be 2 minutes. You could go 0 to 2. You could also do the time. So you could put 1 p.m. if you wanted to, if that's the time you're going to be starting at. So either or works. So that would be about 2 minutes. Then probably 3 minutes. So maybe 2 to 5 minutes. Students will begin performing breathing exercises. Okay. The first exercise will be box breathing. Students will inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold again for 4 seconds, and repeat. Perform this 3 times. Okay. The second exercise will be 3, 5, 7 breathing. Okay. Students will inhale for 3, hold for 5, and exhale 7. Okay. Cues. Inhale through the nose. Think about the ocean wind moving through your body. So that would be an analogy. Okay. Another cue for breathing could be exhale, like you are blowing out candles. It could be cues, could also be while inhaling, think about your belly, sides, and lower back expanding. Think about a soccer ball expanding in your, trunk, okay, or waist. That way they have an idea of what you're looking for. So I'm looking at, those are some cues, progressions, and regressions. So obviously regressions, you could make it a lower count. Okay, so you could go from inhale for 4, you could do inhale for 3, and progressions. So just simple, easy. That's how we would progress, higher count breathing time, and lower count for breathing time. As far as modifications, you could have students seated, back, or sitting up nice and tall. Okay, so different ways that students can sit. As far as differentiation, you could have soft music playing while they're breathing. Okay, so that would be some way to change it up. You could also use a model to demonstrate 360 breathing. So any type of model you can think of that would show that, maybe a soccer ball, since it is the soccer unit. Show them that that's what we want to that's how we want to breathe. We want to inhale with a 360-degree range in our stomach. So as far as what that would look like for box breathing, I could either take pictures or I could put a picture here of what box breathing looks like. Okay, so I could do something like go to the internet, and let me see if I can go here real quick, show you what I mean. If I go to the internet, I go to Google, I go box breathing, go to pictures, and I have this right here. I can just copy and I can add that right here. Okay, I might have to obviously make it smaller so it fits, but that gives the teacher a visual of what you're going to be teaching. Okay, or you could also, again, diagram how the students are going to be sitting. You could obviously look that up. So seated breathing group, and if that comes up, you know, you might look something like this. Oops. Okay, so that's how you would create that side of the lesson plan template. Okay, and do your best. You can also take pictures. So if you do have a diagram that you created, you like drew a diagram on a whiteboard, you can also put that on there. So for example, have all students gather in space with their own mat to prepare for breathing and stretching exercises. I could go back here. I could say that, you know, maybe I want to have more of an introduction activities and go through the schedule with the class. So I might want to do that first. So that's probably something I did miss. So maybe going through the schedule with the class before going into those actual activities. So maybe bumping this up. Okay. That type of thing. All right, and then I could also show a picture of my schedule, or I could just put the schedule out here. So I could put, you know, stretch, warm up, dynamic stretch, kickboxing, soccer. So that could be me going through the schedule with the class, or I could just write, I could talk about the actual schedule of the class. So either or. So definitely want to have an introduction. Probably should have went over that first. But as you see, I'm writing the description of the activity, what I'm going to actually say. Okay, so what I'm actually going to say. Any cues, so cues, and then any regressions or progressions and modifications. Differentiation, that is using, you know, different music or any type of models or any type of physical tactile equipment to help you teach. Okay, as far as assessment goes, so how were the student learning outcomes assessed? So let's go back up to our student learning outcomes. Students will be able to list 2 cues from soccer dribbling. Okay, so maybe, so students will be asked at the end of class to tell their, to answer the following questions. The list 2 cues when dribbling and passing. Okay, tell a buddy or write it down. That would be how I would assess that specifically. Okay, for the affective domain, students will be able to describe leadership qualities. Okay, so first I might say, okay, describe what you think is a leader. And then, you know, they can say this out loud or write it down. Then I might go deeper, okay? Give one example of someone who portrayed leadership skills today, and talk about one example from the class. So hopefully they talk about, Jenny, took charge and taught me this today. So I think they're a leader. Or, maybe Dr. Weber was leading us through some exercises. So I think he's a leader. So just an example of who portrayed leadership skills and why is leadership important. Okay, so why is that important? Because we need somebody to help us. We need people giving back, that type of thing. Looking at psychomotor skills. So students will be able to perform dribbling, passing, and shooting skills with high rate of success. Okay. You might say, let me, think of a rubric I could create. So the criteria for kicking, might go ahead and pause this real quick. Okay, so criteria for kicking. First thing I might look at is takes a couple steps back before attempting the ball, so that they have an approach. Looking at approach, they approach the ball. Two, I might look at stepping with opposite foot next to ball. Okay. And that would be the non-kicking leg. And then I might have kicking ball with instep. Let's just say criteria for passing. So that's more specific. So kicking ball with instep or inside a foot. And then 4, following through. Okay, and then based on that criteria, did the student meet each of the criteria? Now the student can say, yes, I was able to perform all this, or you could have a peer assessment. So it could be a self, peer, or teacher observational assessment. So if you, the teacher, want to look at one skill like passing, this is how you would take it apart and then also assess it. Now, there are lots of rubrics online that you can find. So you can say rubric for passing, kicking. Let's just see what comes up. You're going to get a lot. Okay. So you have beginning, emerging, progressing, advanced. Let's see if we can open this up. All right, so striking with an implement, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for ball manipulation skills. Let's see if we can find it. So we got spatial awareness, ball manipulation. And I might take this image and add it to my lesson plan. That way I have something to kind of look at as I'm looking at, dribbling skills, okay, bouncing skills, okay, receiving, kicking, carrying skills, or trapping skills, okay. So I can tell you, is the learner beginning, emerging, progressing, advancing, or mastering that actual skill, okay. And so that's how I would create my lesson plan. And I would go step by step in creating that lesson plan. And if you have questions creating this lesson plan, you can always let me know, okay. So that is the portion where I kind of let you know what I'm looking for. For some people who, didn't listen to this, or who aren't listening to this video right now, they might just go ahead and look at, the lesson plan key, which you can do, which is going to give you the same information that I just gave you, but it's just going to go over it more in depth. Okay. So everything that I just told you, basically a little bit more in depth. And so in case you would like to see some actual writing, the lesson plan guide for class. Okay. This is to let you know that we have changed a little bit we're going to skip the power for the warm up unless you think it's appropriate for strength training. But I think for most of our students, I think mobility, motor control, and dynamic is all that we need to do. I've also taken some exercises out that I didn't think worked well. So the wall calf stretch, wall quad, wall lat, wall pec, wall leg swings. I think those are all things that we can do with our students. Butterfly, number 4, stretch, straddle, stretch, cross leg stretch, cat cow, quad neck rotations, hip rocks, half kneeling position, downward dog, crab yoga table, toe touch squat, supine figure 4. So those would be some mobility exercises. Motor control, those are, taking one joint action and trying to isolate it away from the other joints. Dynamic is like knee to chest, skipping, marching, locomotor skills. Okay. After that, after your warm up, you'll want to play a fun game. So, whether it's kickboxing or dance, I can't believe that dance isn't even in here. I'll have to put it in here. So, anything that you think would be a fun game, you can go to pecentral.org and you can look up, I could look up hula hoop games. Okay, I could look up noodle games, beanbag games. So think about all the equipment that we have. We have scarves, we have hula hoops, we have radio, we have everything that you can think of. And you might not find everything here, but you can go to lessons. You can look for a certain age. Now, with the adapted population, you're probably going to look at more elementary PE games. Let me go ahead and put in beanbags. So let's just say you want to play a game with beanbags or basketball. Just kind of put it in here. So here we go. These are all games with beanbags. You can go to any of these games and click on it and use them. So PE Central is really to help you create a game that will be fun for class that we haven't seen. So if you want to, spend extra time on the activity or game, that's totally fine. So about 10 or 15 minutes would be appropriate. If you're doing sports skills or strength training, it's going to be 30 to 35 minutes. Sports are broken down into individual skills, partner skills, and group games. Fitness is broken down into 4 stations, with each having an upper and lower body exercise paired with a core exercise or stretch. I should also say this can also be a group fitness workout, so it doesn't have to be stations. Okay. A little bit of time for station or for closure. Okay. And this document will kind of give you some ideas for mainly the strength training. The sports skills, it says individual, partner, and group games. You may have to go to PE Central to figure out what sport skills you're going to actually teach, or you can also ask me what sport skills you teach. So this is kind of the sport aspect is something that you'll have to perform some research on what would be the best thing to play with our students. So again, you can go, if you're going to be teaching volleyball, you might want to find elementary volleyball. So I might click on volleyball to start and see what comes up. Striking with balloons, toss, volleyball unit plan, service handball for teaching volleyball. So you're going to get all the information you need for teaching fitness too. So if you want to look at some fitness activities on PE Central or sport activities, that's going to be your best bet. Okay. As far as the lesson plan guide video that I created in class that went over every exercise, you can definitely go back to this. If you have the ability to screenshot, so if you're using your phone, what you could do is screenshot some pictures. So for example, when you're creating your lesson plan, what you can do is screenshot a picture of me performing a movement and then add that to your lesson plan. Okay. So YouTube's acting a little funny right now, but if I had the opportunity to see myself teaching right now, I might take a clip shot and a picture and add it to my lesson plan. Okay. I don't think that's going to show up for me, so I won't be able to show you. So let me just X that out. Lesson plan examples. Here's 24 lesson plans that I've had previous students teach with video. So if you want to watch a video of them performing the lesson plan, plus I have some sample lesson plans here from past students. Now, if anything looks awkward or different on these lesson plans, it's because they do change over time. We try to make the lesson plans better, obviously. So if you see some inappropriate lesson plans, then just understand that you know the difference between appropriate and not appropriate, okay? And that's a good thing. So it doesn't mean that these are going to be perfect, but they are going to give you some examples. Here's some lesson plan recipes. So recipes meaning like how would you break down your lesson plan? So here's a progressive approach for sports. So I might do breathing for 3 minutes, stretching for 7, activation for 5, dynamic for 5, kickboxing for 10, individual soccer skills, partner soccer skills, smaller group game, and then cool down activity. So that would be all for 60 minutes. And I'll put 60 minutes here so that you know how long you'll be planning, okay? Here's a basic approach, 10-minute warm-up, 10-minute fun game, 30-minute soccer, 10-minute cool down. But you'll want to break this down even more in your lesson plan, okay? But this is just, these are just recipes. Recipes meaning, you know, what order and how long should I take for each activity. So if you're doing progressive strength training, you might want to do some breathing, stretching, activation, dynamic stretch. Yes, I probably would do power exercise if you're going to be doing strength training. So like jumping or med balls. And then strength training, at least 20 minutes, 4 stations times 5 minutes, or it could be group, like we talked about earlier, leaving 5 minutes for conditioning. That could be in the form of relays, okay? And then stretching and closure at the end. So if you're teaching sport, 10-minute activation stretch, 5-minute dynamic, 10-minute fun game, 5-minute individual skills, 5-minute partner skills, 10-minute group game, 10-minute closure game. So it might be some type of easier game or accuracy game that's you know, maybe not as intense. Sorry, not accuracy game, but like the game we played with the bean bags and trying to balance the bean bags on the middle. So that was a closure game, okay? Again, you can go to pecentral.org right here, teacher resources to create the lesson plan for any of the activities. So when you're filling out your lesson plan, you can take any of the information from PE Central and copy and paste it right in there, okay? So if you have questions about lesson planning or you need some help lesson planning, feel free to email me. Remember, draft 1 will be your first lesson plan, and then I'll give you feedback on that. Once you get feedback from your lesson plan, you will correct any feedback and be prepared to turn that in for lesson plan or draft 2 or draft, you know, your final draft, which you will eventually be teaching to the class, okay? And we'll talk more about expectations, teaching expectations in class. This video is designed to help you with the lesson planning. Good luck, and please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.